customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you're a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you. Want to improve your company culture and become the brand your employees and customers can't live without? Email Claudia at DiJuliusGroup.com to find out about consulting, executive and online training, and other resources we can offer you. You can also schedule a call with Claudia by going to tdg.click/Claudia.
Welcome back, revolutionaries, to another episode of the Customer Service Revolution. Today, I am interviewing someone that's been with me, over 25 years, Denise Thompson, managing partner of the DiJulius Group. And the best way I explain who Denise is she has been the man, or in this case, the woman behind the curtain, making me look good. First, she started off with us at John Roberts Spa and helped grow that. And then when the DiJulius Group started taking off, she switched and helped manage and run that. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you, John.
How many years has it been?
28,
Oh
I
my
think.
gosh. You're so much more older than I realize.
I know. I'm almost as old as you.
In May, you will be for
12
days. All right, Denise, tell our audience your backstory of, what got you to John Roberts in 96?
96. Well, I knew you. So for our listeners, I knew John prior to working with him. I was working in the dental field at the time. And you were opening a spa, and I remember talking to you and Stacy about working for the salon and spa. Aesthetics sounded really interesting to me, so I went and got my license for aesthetics, and then you opened the spa as promised and hired me as your first esthetician, which was pretty brave to open really thinking back on it, to open a new spa, and spas weren't very popular at that time.
Not back then in the mid 90s. Yeah, they were new concept.
And to take somebody who was new and had never
no clientele,
or right.
Yeah, you're right. I'm really questioning my judgment. I needed to bring someone in with a clientele.
But it worked.
You grew it, and then I don't know if you got bored or...
Well, I think I started doing some other things. We were working on some different sales programs, and I helped with that. And then you taught me some things with the marketing. And then eventually I slid into more of a management role.
Yeah. You had a lot of different positions. I know at John Roberts, you were the people development director, which I think is, an HR, hiring and all that. And then marketing, and you might have been doing it at the same time. Yeah. And then when and why did you switch over to the DiJulius Group?
Gosh, well, that was that
2000s
when I'm trying to think if that was when you wrote your first book.
At least then, because that's when that really kicked off. And
we started doing events at different. At that time, it was just beauty conferences mainly that we did events at. Things in the salon and spa industry. And I started supporting those events. There were a few of us, I think, that used to go.
From the salon, but then I needed, someone full-time over in the DiJulius Group.
You had already taught me everything about marketing that you knew. And
But
A
that's
lot of
different marketing. Little
Mhm.
salon versus, you know,
Speaker
that, yeah, for on a more national level at the time.
and outside of, multiple industries.
All right, so a ballpark or when you switched to the DiJulius Group?
2002.
The book came out, technically, Secret Service came out January of 2002. I'm sorry, 2003. So,
Great. Yeah, because I remember working on getting it published.
oh, okay. All right.
I would
So
have
you might
been,
have been just before that.
yeah.
All right, let's talk about your DiJulius Group journey. And so what did you start off doing? Just marketing? You weren't probably admin. I probably always had
I think,
Mary or someone doing, I don't know. I don't remember.
yeah, right. I think Mary was doing administrative work at that
You
time.
did anything. You did some
Yeah,
speaking and
whatever came
consulting
up.
when I couldn't do it or whatever. We threw everything at you.
I think that's one of the benefits of working for a smaller company is having an opportunity to wear a lot of hats.
Yeah. How did it evolve?
So it evolved from, my gosh, John, I mean, I feel like it's still evolving, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But I just want our listeners to know about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
So I started with the DiJulius Group doing marketing, getting the book published, getting that out there, getting you in front of speaker bureaus. That was a big
And
one.
then you did sales, right? For when
Yeah.
people would
Oh,
call in to book me, they went through
that's,
you, right?
yep.
First, yeah. And then we started hiring people to do a lot of the things that we were throwing at you, salesperson, marketing,
And then
events.
started putting your content into other forms.
Yeah. And then we turned into a consulting company, and then we started hiring consultants. And then when were you made partner?
No, I don't remember date wise what that
Oh
would have
seven,
been,
oh eight,
but
maybe?
yeah, I was going to say it feels like it was pretty early on that transpired.
Yeah, I know it was before '09, I believe, because of Stacy was
Yes.
was still with
Yeah.
us. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, and today, what are you doing?
Depends on the day of the week. So right now, I'm involved in the podcasts. I'm involved in marketing. I'm involved in things for the website, still some things with content.
You also don't you coach staff or one-on-ones? Some.
I still meet with sales weekly. I meet with administrative and finance, but it's not even on a weekly basis unless something's needed weekly. But typically there's not because we have such a good flow and we
Yeah.
have our all team meetings. So that covers a lot of it.
So you look 28 years gone by, and you're a managing partner, and hopefully financially and in other ways it paid off. But here's a question I want to ask you. So my strategy, starting off both the DiJulius Group and John Roberts Spa, was I didn't want to take investors, wanted to grow organically, but the strategy to that was I had to hire green people, that didn't have experience, because it was cheaper, right? And so I looked for people who were great employees to promote internally that believed in my vision, and that was basically my only two criteria: great employees, who believed in my vision. And but I know for a long time, longer than I wanted, I'm sure longer than you want, you were underpaid, right? I believe you could easily have gone out with your experience after a while and found something higher paid. So this is both for entrepreneurs listening and for anyone. Why'd you stay, and why would anyone technically be underpaid for however long it was?
I think the vision has a lot to do with it. You have always been great at selling us the vision and what you see coming up. And I don't think there's a lot of places that I could have gone and not been pigeonholed into one thing, where you did this and that was it. And you have always given me a lot of opportunities, which I appreciate and I like to learn. So that is something that I thrive on. Having an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to do different things means a lot. But it's the people too. I always thought from the very beginning with the salon and spa, it was an enigma to have those people at that time. And we were Oh my gosh. Do you remember we would travel to different shows and people would share rooms and there'd be four of us
I
in a hotel.
remember early on, we went to a hair show, and Stacy must not have gone because we would have gotten. She might have been having one of the kids because we typically would have gotten our own room, but because she didn't go, uh, we had at least five people in a room, which sounds really weird because that means there wasn't that many guys that worked for us. So we had, you know, but I remember Eric was in the room. But I remember for whatever reason, and there was no disrespect, maybe I chose, I slept on the floor. I mean, we didn't have money to get, enough rooms. And I just remember like, oh, I'll take the floor, which I mean, like, it was just, that's what we did.
But how fun was it?
It
We
was.
had so much fun in the management retreats that we did, and
Yeah.
it was a lot of
But I
fun.
try to tell like new employees in both companies that, you, Eric, Marie, Patty, all, the people who started early on, you were our Jackie Robinsons in a way, just because we couldn't pay you for management retreats or, staying after work, and you guys would just do it. And, today I don't think we would ever consider, ask, or be allowed to ask people to do what you guys did. But if you didn't, we wouldn't, neither business would it be what it is today. And I try to, have people realize what the sacrifices those founding employees gave, and so, there's, I'm sure you've read it or heard it, but I love this article from Harvard Business. I want to say it's around 2007. Maybe you can make it a link to download in the show notes. Um, Soul of a Startup. And it talks about how every company eventually, if you grow, loses the soul of the startup, because in the early days you're working with me and Stacy and 24/7, and sitting Friday night eating pizza on the floor trying to think, how are we going to keep our doors open, how are we going to, grow this, how are we going to, all this. And you see that, back then you guys are, probably driving better cars than we were, and back to, sleeping on the floor in a hotel because we couldn't afford enough rooms. And you have people that, like you, that are willing to just do anything. But eventually, you grow and there's more success. And then, there's people that I don't know that work for us, that just understandably don't have that uh, bond. They're not willing to walk through a fire for John. John, you know, is rich and lives in a big house, and, probably came easy for him, and that's all a fair assessment. And that's, what the whole article talks about, is why do I have people, and then the founding people are like, it's not like it used to be. And the new people obviously don't have that engagement. And I think the key is you got to have your next layer to be the Johns and Stacys that those people are going to want. I think that's what you've done and Eric's done, who's the managing partner of John Roberts, and, those people. But yeah, so it goes back to that. But, you could give advice from an employee and kind of a COO of what made you stay, and you weren't sure it was ever going to pay off.
I think I was.
Well, I
I
sure wasn't.
trusted you. I trusted you.
I wasn't at all, but yeah. What would you do differently? Or tell your 28-year-old self?
If there was a lot, I
And think
would.
of it also about being a woman in, you know, I don't care what we say. It unfortunately still is a predominantly man's world in senior level positions. And
Well, but the salon and spa industry is different.
right, but you still have to, and more so in the past 20 years, 20 plus years, you've been in the DiJulius Group, and you're dealing with men in other companies, vendors, whatever that may be, clients. So how do you get credibility when they may be stereotyping that, when you were younger and you weren't a man with gray hair, what could she know?
That would be a book on its own. At every stage of our career, there are things we don't know. So finding that balance where you have the humility to ask questions when you need to, but also the confidence to stand up and speak, even if you're the youngest one in the room or the only woman in the room. I remember being surprised one time that I didn't get a sale, and it was because I was a female and I was going to be the consultant on the project. I couldn't believe the old boys club was really a thing until it happened to me.
You didn't realize what your perceived drawbacks were.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we all have them. And whether it's my son Cal, right, a male, but he was in his mid 20s, just out of college, and that's a credibility issue. When Jess started working for us, um, you know, I used to tell her she was fresh out of graduate school, but she was probably in her mid to late 20s, but she looked 23. And I said, you have to understand that when you walk into a corporate, Fortune 500 company, they are going to, assess you as, she's young and she's a woman, right or wrong. Um, and my advice to her was the moment you start speaking, they have to forget about all that. And even I have, credibility issues. A couple of weeks ago, I was speaking to New Day USA interns, and it was 150 seniors in college, and I'm thinking they're going to look at me and say, "Who's this boomer?" Right? So we have all those, no matter who we are, what age we are, what thing, but you have to know that so you can address it and hopefully remove that obstacle in their head, in doing that.
And I think you have to be confident,
Yeah.
really passionate about anything helps to bring that confidence forward too. But to work on whatever it is that you think you lack so that you can walk into any room with confidence and own it.
Yeah. Do you think, Denise, that they have to be more prepared than their male counterpart?
I would say yes.
Yeah. I remember when, one of my favorite things, about for you, I love when we have interns, right? Every summer we've had, and they're just the greatest. But I remember we had one great year, we had three. We had Kevin Baker, um, Carter Gerbrick, and McKenna Mason, I think was her name. And every time I would ask a question to them, Carter and Kevin would speak up. And I'd have to ask McKenna what her thoughts were. And I don't know if this was right or wrong, but I told her, she can't do that. She can't let them dominate. Um, because I was afraid she was as smart, if not smarter than both of them. But you had to, pull it out. She wasn't as aggressive as speaking up and speaking her mind. And I used to tell her, you have an answer, you have a good answer, you can't be shy because not people are going to assume you don't have an answer. And so I don't know if that was good or bad advice, but I remember I was always worried about that for her because she was so smart. But she didn't feel the necessary the need to compete with them, but I thought it could hurt them, you know. And they were great too. It's just their nature. It was my nature is, say something that was in my head. But she didn't have that. And I don't know if that's a female thing or, I'm sure there's guys there.
Female thing, or if it's some people, but isn't it interesting that we feel it's necessary to tell women to speak up,
Yeah.
not men to shut up?
Right. Right. Yeah. But I was just afraid she was going to get lost. And I know she does a great job today, but I'd love to go back and ask her if that advice was good or bad.
Is
So
she doing
McKenna,
something related? Because she was, this is probably an offline
yeah, yeah,
question.
yeah. Well, maybe she's listening. She can tell us what she learned and if it was the right advice or Maybe she stepped on some landmines. All right, here's what everyone wants to know. I don't know if you get this asked, but what's the hardest thing about working for me? 28 years. You're my work wife.
I think in the beginning it was learning to embrace change because there's a lot of that.
Just because I'm a typical entrepreneur and just have a new idea every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
I don't know if that's change or flavor of the month. It's not a good thing.
no, it's not always a good thing, but
No.
also being in a small company, things move really fast.
Yeah.
If this isn't working, let's fix it. Or this is working, but let's break it and make it better. So it is constant change. And I think myself and the rest of the team, we're probably good at standing up and saying this is not a good idea, or no, we should keep this as is. But there are some things that are definitely worth breaking and fixing and making better or trying different. Look at the live streams we're doing now.
You want to explain that?
We've had an annual conference for years and it was fantastic. And then the pandemic hit and that altered things a bit. And people really got used to virtual and being able to attend things online. So we had a lot of people asking about, online workshops. The past few years, instead of bringing back the in-person conference, we've started to do live streams. And this year we have 4 different workshops. So it not only gives them a chance to attend live online, but they also have time to work on things as a team and actually create systems. So in the past, when they've attended the conference, you get a lot of ideas. You have a lot of different speakers, you have a lot of ideas, and you go home with a bunch of notes and try to figure out, what are we going to implement? What are we going to do? But with these workshops, they actually have a chance to hands-on work on things, ask questions of you and Dave during the workshop, and walk away with something that they can start to implement.
What are workshops coming up? There's one in March.
There's one in March. So in March, we have March 10th, create non-negotiable standards. So that'll help people that need to build consistency within their organization and who doesn't need that.
Reduce employee roulette. And then the next one
In
is
June 9th, we have become a zero risk organization. So that's all about service recovery programs, anticipating challenges that arise and turning those into loyal customers. September 8th, we have create a recruiting experience. That's always been a favorite of mine. I love what we do. And I still talk to people about that, how to create a good recruiting experience. Because I
Denise,
think
you just reminded me, going back to one of your first management leadership positions when you got promoted at John Roberts Spa, we called you the people development director. And the reason why I got that was because I took the Disney Institute course, Disney's approach to people management. And I brought all that back. And then you really are the one that ran with it and built it and stuff that we still use today and teach. And it's in that class. It was a lot of it was in the new book that Dave and I just wrote, The Employee Experience Revolution. All right.
yeah.
So that's
That one's September 9th.
Okay.
Or September 8th, I'm sorry. And then the final one is on December 1st, and that's creating an onboarding experience. So once you hire them, how do you get them excited about working there? How do you not overwhelm them? And how do you teach them about the legacy of the company and create those new loyalists, raving fans within your organization?
And people can sign up for one or multiple.
You can sign up for one, but I don't know why you would, because all 4 make sense. And a single one is $249. You could buy the entire series for $749, so it's like getting one free. And you can send different people to each one.
How many
So
you get with the ticket?
if you buy a single one, you get 3. If you buy the full series, you get 5. So you can send 5 people to each one of the online workshops.
And you can trade them out, like if one of them is better.
So if you want to send people that are HR oriented to the last 2 and
operations or
to the first ones.
All right, cool. All right, so you back to what's the hardest thing about working for me? You said early on, it was change.
Correct. And I'm guessing this is true with most entrepreneurs. It's learning your priorities. So working at the speed of light, there are high expectations, low patience, not a lot of details or description. You're empowered to run with things and get things done on your own, which is fantastic until maybe you do it the wrong way. You ask the minimum number of questions because that's all that time allows.
But then you can get blamed for not doing it right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's
And the
okay.
other thing I know it's happened in my business, I see it, as a consultant in other businesses, you know, you guys come to me with an idea and I'm not listening or I dismiss it because it's not on my radar today. And then 6 months later, I have this brilliant idea. And you guys tell me that, I killed that idea last year. And I'm like, no, this is different. This is totally different. And it's the same, but it must be burrowed in my subconscious, and then it hits me. But and so that's got to be hard, right? Because at
And
least
sometimes you're just glad it's getting done. You're glad it's coming back. You're glad it's having its
you are
day.
right.
Yeah.
But the CEO, the me gets the credit all the time, and like I said, you've been the person behind the curtain for all these years that is invisible to the rest of the world. That ever
Yeah.
get old?
I think the CEO gets the credit, but I think the CEO also takes the most risks. And I think the CEO, while they may have some ideas that were regurgitated, they have a lot of their own ideas, and they do allow us to present a lot of ours too. So, I mean, our team's been really good about that, having ideas and sharing them and you bringing them to life.
So something that always comes up when I'm working with my clients and I'm, seeing the type A leaders, similar to myself, come in, drop a bunch of ideas and then leave and their heads are spinning and they ask me for help and I'm kind of like I can't help you because I'm that person. But I'm always like, God, if you talk to Denise or Eric, they're in your shoes. How do you handle a type A leader? How do you remind them that they gave you 10 number one priorities in the past week, and whatever you choose, it'll probably be wrong because they're gonna, how do you handle that?
When the plate is overflowing and then one more thing gets added, it's asking, right? Okay, I can do this. Would you prefer it before or after these 6 things? And then you make your decision based on that. And sometimes there are things that come up that I know are not going to,
I'm gonna forget about.
well, you're either going to forget about, or in 2 weeks, it's not going to make as much sense. And
Yeah,
I'll let it sit and marinate for a bit
and that's not risky. That hasn't come
until
back
you
to
say, why
that
isn't that
hasn't
done?
right. That hasn't come back to haunt you.
Oh, absolutely. It's come back to haunt me on occasion, but sometimes you have to choose your sanity.
What about a COO? You have to do cleanup or damage control with other staff that may not know initially how to take a strong personality. What's that like?
I think some of it starts with hiring. If you need people with thicker skin, you need to hire people with thicker skin. I consider that someone in my position, I'm not there to be the good guy as much as I'm there to make you look like the good guy. So sometimes that's going back and explaining to them why a situation was handled the way it was, why John said what he said, what the message behind that might be. Yet at the same time, letting them know that I have their back because I do. If I have a good team member that's upset about something, I'm doing everything I can to make it
You've
right.
also been good at probably not all the time, but coming to me saying, you can't, you're ruining morale in a meeting when, which at first I'm like, no, you're wrong. And then, it'll hit me later that, You're right. And I think, you have to have an open dialogue with the number one to be able to tell them that.
And have it with the number one, not with
Right.
your peers and yeah. But it's okay. It's totally okay to bitch up. So if I have an issue, the person I should take it up with is you, not the people next to me or the people that report to me.
Have you ever mentored any young women starting their careers? I think you'd be awesome at that. I'm sure you naturally have to our staff.
I think I have through the years, people will come up to me later and say, I did this because you said that. I did this. And sometimes I'm like, man, I shouldn't have because you'd still be with us.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've helped a lot of people in both brands have tremendous careers. Jess and Nicole and, maybe McKenna, as an intern. So what would you tell a young woman who's starting off? How do they make it to the top? How do they avoid landmines?
I don't
And
know that you do. I think you anticipate as many as you can, but I don't care who you are, you're going to hit a landmine now and again. I think that's where you learn a lot of times. I mean, we
what's your
learn
number
more.
one advice for them, though?
Um, do what you're passionate about because that'll get you through those times, grit those times when you don't think you can take another day, if you're doing something you love
But were
or
you
you're,
passionate about the beauty industry before you got into it? Were you
yeah,
passionate about
I
speaking and
was
consulting
passionate.
before you got into it?
No,
So you
but,
didn't necessarily start out saying that's the industry I want, but you got sucked into it.
but it was the day to day and the people that I did it with and for that made it, something that you're passionate about. And the topic, how can people not be passionate about customer experience and employee experience? I mean, isn't that so many people look at the conferences we go to that people come up to you afterwards and say, I want to work with you. I want to work for you.
And then they talk to you then they say, no, I don't. All right. What's been your most rewarding when your career is over, which is hopefully 30 years from now? What is your most, what will you look back professionally?
I don't know, John, there's so much people that I've met. I can't say that I have one big thing that this was it. I think every year there's something new. And I think it's been team things. So like I mentioned before when the first book got published, how exciting was that when that
Yeah.
happened? When, we found a publisher and to be a part of that process was super exciting.
Well,
To
so
do the
just for
conference.
listeners, we got turned down by over 200 publishers before one took a chance, which I mean, it was your job was to send out 200 and whatever plus book proposals and, get all of them back that said no. So we were um, in the process of self-publishing because we didn't think anyone was going to take it. Yeah. I'm not
But
telling
then
you.
once that first one got published,
Yeah.
now I keep bugging you to write more.
Yeah. No, that was it. All right, Denise, what is the best advice quote you've ever heard or you live by, life advice?
So there are a couple quotes that I try to live by. One is by Thomas Edison, and it is, in your life, you will have many opportunities to keep your mouth shut. Take advantage of every one of them. So that might go against what you were telling McKenna, but I think it's important that people listen more than they speak.
Mm-hmm.
And that when we do speak, we're careful of what we say and how we say it so that we don't say the wrong thing to the wrong people. I've never gone back and said, God, I really regret that I didn't say that. I won't beat myself up over that as much as I beat myself up over why did I say that to that person? Like when those kinds
How
of
you
things.
said it or what you said?
Yeah, what I said, like sometimes in a moment, you might say something that
Yeah.
you're angry, whatever it might
Yeah.
be, or you escalate something and it's like, man, that is just,
Overreacted.
yeah. So, um, I also think it's one of those things that, um, helps you build trust. I know there are people who, probably share beyond who they should share with. And those are things that are not great. I would rather go to my grave with things than, hey, I've got a bit of juicy something for you.
So
So that's,
that's one quote. Did you have a second one? It sounded like you had two.
yeah, there's another one that I really like, and it's Richard Branson. And it is when somebody gives you a great opportunity, even if you don't know how to do it, say yes and then learn how.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. All right, one last question. I've never asked you this. Hopefully it's okay to ask you. We talk about how old were you when your mom passed? I know you were young.
19.
Talk a lot about or I hear a lot about more so people who are raised without a father in the house. That's unfortunately more common and the drawbacks of that. But I didn't know, and I don't know, if you had enough time without a mother figure in the house and what that taught you or cost you. I always say, what was alarming to me when my boys lost their mother was, I kind of panicked, because the way I say it is parents, man and woman, however it gets shaken out, personalities. One, and I think the female gives them, certain vitamins, let's say, right? The soft and, oh, you fell down. Are you okay? Where I'm like, stand up. So what if it's bleeding? It's not broken, and my personality gave them another thing. But between us both, they get hopefully all the vitamins they need, metaphorically. But then when the boys lost their mother, I panicked because I didn't realize what they were getting from Stacy that I just never know to give them. What she was giving them, and so I got really worried. And to this day, still don't know what I don't know, and what they were missing or they didn't get. Did you what was that like for you? Or were you too old that didn't?
I'm sure it was harder for my sister. She was only
Mhm.
12 at the
Yeah.
time, so I'm sure it was harder for her. I remember um, I probably tried to be mom to her, which didn't go over well with her.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my mom had been sick for years,
Mhm.
so I learned how to cook. And she did a lot, but I learned how to do things that I look now and I see kids that are, you know, late in their teens that they don't do or don't know how to do around the house. And I think, what are they going to do when they go away to college or when they go out on their own? How are they going to survive? Because mom does everything for them or dad does everything for
Yeah.
them. Hard. But, I think traumas that happen in our life shape us in so many ways. When you look at successful people in the world, I think most of them have had some kind of traumatic childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, you could speak to it as well. I mean, growing up without a father for,
Yeah. Talking about how I don't know, coddling we are, and I'm sure our parents thought the same thing. I'm sure their parents thought the same thing, but this is so embarrassing. When my youngest son Bo was a senior in high school, didn't want his driver's license for whatever reason, which I was totally fine with because, um, once you realize, and I didn't realize this until after my second son had turned 16. You basically, they might as well go off to college when they turn 16 and get their license, because if you give them a car, you never see him again. So I remember consciously with Bo, I was like in no hurry to give him a car because I didn't want to lose him, right? And so while I was inconvenient, I still had to drop him off and take him to practice and drive him to school. I liked it, because I knew he was my last. And so, but this is so embarrassing. I'm driving him to school one morning, senior year. He's at least 18, and I said, "Boy, I gotta stop and get gas." So pull over to the gas station. He says, "Can I have your credit card and go to Starbucks, which was right across the street? And I said, yeah. So I give him the credit card. And so I'm pumping gas, and all of a sudden my phone rings, and it's Bo. So I'm thinking he's probably calling to see if I want some. So I answer. He's like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know what to do? You've been to Starbucks before. He goes, no, I don't know how to get there. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I look up, and he's 30 feet away from me at the corner of the gas station at the red light, the traffic thing. And he didn't know how to cross the intersection. And this is so embarrassing. This is a true story. And I had to say, Bo, when the light, or hit the button, or when the light turns red, you can cross. And like, that's how, you know, yeah, yeah. So, but like you said, when you're forced to, be in that situation, or on your own, you start, you figure it out really quick. All right. Any other words of wisdom, advice, or anything you want to leave our?
I want to bring up one other thing that you did with our team early on that I think made a difference in a lot of our lives, um, was the goal setting that we did. You taught so many of us at a young age how to, which sounds kind of silly now, but like how to properly goal set. And it was things we did as a team too. And I think it was something that kept us together.
Accountable.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. To that, we did 90-day, 1 year, 5 year, and 20 year, which helped people think about. You ever look back in those books you made?
I have. In fact, I opened a closet the other day and there was a box with, and I didn't go through them, but I'm like, it's been a while since I've looked at that. I probably should, and see
It's
what.
fun to look at those, because a lot of them I thought they were just so far fetched, but I just wanted to put them down because they either made me sound better or more ambitious, or whatever. And this isn't bragging. I just think this is us being short sighted at the time, that I've just blown by all those. And I think, we have to dream bigger than I don't think our imagination allows us to realize what we can accomplish. And like now I look at them, I'm like, that was my 20-year goal. Like that's was so small. But I would have probably bet that I never would have come close to that, just because at that time you don't think, you don't realize what's possible.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Denise. You have been instrumental in my success, in all my brands, and I've gotten unfairly way, way too much credit, and you've haven't, and you've for some reason been fine with that. But you are that person behind the curtain that has made us super successful, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you.
All right, revolutionaries, we will be back after this.